If you walk through the Harz Mountains National Park today, some wooded areas present you with a bizarre view. Gray skeletons of dead spruce trees as far as the eye can see. For many people, this is disconcerting, and they're concerned about the woodlands. Is the woodland dying over a large area? Is the woodland dead? Nature provides an answer to these questions, because nature rules in the Harz Mountains National Park. This is its very own nature building site. Let nature be nature. Return to the wilderness. This is a guiding principle of all national parks worldwide, as well as here in the Harz Mountains National Park. But does the new wilderness look like this? To understand what is going on, we have to look to the past. The Harz Mountains have been used and shaped by people over hundreds of years. Charcoal production and the increasing demand for timber for mining have changed this mountain landscape in a radical way. The natural woodland disappeared more and more. Timber was becoming scarce. Clear cuttings of woodlands were replanted, most of the time with fast-growing spruce trees. That was a massive achievement and secured the supply of timber. However, this created forests with one dominant single tree, the spruce tree. These monocultures have little in common with nature or wilderness. They were cared for and maintained until it was time for the harvest. Also, at higher altitudes of the Harz Mountains, where the spruce tree occurs naturally, woodlands were changed by their forestry use. The creation of the national park ended the use of these woodlands. Up to that point, the woodland was shaped by people, but then, in line with national park philosophy, a new builder took over, nature. We are all spectators of this, and can observe how nature drives forward this building site in a resolute way. Put yourself in the shoes of the builder. Instead of the old, you want to create something new, vital and worth living. What would you do? Tear down the old without compromise to create space for something new? In the Harz Mountains National Park, in many places, nature has chosen this path, and with an impressive consistency. The aging timber forest was knocked down. This creates space for a new woodland, which nature constructs following its own rules, a nature building site. But why are the remaining spruce timber forests simultaneously dying off over large areas? Several causes act together. The dying and decay of old trees is part of a natural cycle of the woodlands. Becoming and decaying are the hallmarks of natural woodland ecosystems. In a natural woodland, old and young trees grow next to each other. This means not all trees are dying at the same time. In the monocultures of the former timber forest, that is different. All trees have the same age and reach the age where processes of dying and decay increase at the same time. Other factors come into play. Climate change has measurably increased storms, heat and drought, and weakens the trees. Enter this, and the spruce trees have nothing to set against. For the spruce bark beetle, monocultures are the land of plenty. Also in the territory of the National Park forester Klaus-Dieter Schulze.
Ja, hier kann man ein Fraßbild sehen. Hier ist der Muttergang, an dem die Weibchen ihre Eier ablegen. Diese feinen Gänge, die hier mit Bohrmehl zugefüllt sind, das sind die Larvengänge. Das sind also die Gänge, wo die Larven fressen und sich entwickeln. Irgendwann verpuppen sie sich dann in der Rinde und kommen dann als fertige Jungkäfer quasi auf der anderen Seite der Rinde wieder heraus. Hier sieht man gerade einen Käfer, ein relativ hellbrauner noch. Das ist also ein Jungkäfer. Die Altkäfer sind deutlich dunkler, fast schwarz. Hier ist also sehr deutlich zu sehen, warum der Fichtenborkenkäfer seinen Namen Buchdrucker bekommen hat. Wir haben hier von oben nach unten am Stamm gesehen den Muttergang, der quasi den Mittelteil des Buches bildet. Und die Larvengänge, die links und rechts abgehen, bilden die Zeilen des Buches, sodass der Eindruck eines aufgeklappten Buches entsteht.
Healthy spruce trees defend themselves with tree resin. This suffocates the intruder. However, during extreme drought, or when too many beetles attack the trees at the same time, this protection method does not work. The feeding tracts of numerous beetle larvae destroy the food distribution system of the tree. The spruce trees die off. In long, warm, and dry summers, each female beetle can be responsible for the creation of more than 100,000 offspring. At the nature building site, bark beetles are the demolition contractors, so to speak. They initiate the radical change of the woodlands. At lower and medium altitudes, hordes of beetles overrun the former timber forests in an invasion. At higher altitudes, up to the peak region of the Brocken summit, we can also observe changes. Climate change and the bark beetle make life difficult for the trees even here, where spruce woodlands grow naturally. The more natural structure in the so-called Brocken primeval forest, where young and old trees grow next to each other, allowed the emergence of a new generation. For us, such views take getting used to. Many friends of woodlands find this view disturbing. Does national park mean that woodland looks like this? That it dies? Let's take some time and have a closer look at this bizarre gray woodland, which the bark beetle left behind. After only a short time, we can discover new things. Everywhere it is busy on the nature building site. At the higher altitudes, new spruce trees grow. But this time, it looks very different. Irregular, not sorted. Yes, wilder. In a few places, mountain ash and other broad-leaved trees are added to the picture. Nature builds the new wilder and more colorful woodland. Other plants move in also. Grasses, mosses, ferns, and flowers. And so that the wilderness can flourish, we find an exemplary recycle system. The dead wood from the old timber forest decays bit by bit into woodland soil. Numerous fungi, insects, and other small creatures do this job. This is the perfect circular economy of nature. Nothing is wasted or has no use. After just a few years, a new diversity has grown up under old, dead spruce trees. This growing wilderness attracts many other new inhabitants. Biodiversity also increases in the higher altitudes of the Spruce Mountain woodlands as change takes place. The National Park scientist Andreas Martin researches this development.
Diese Falle hier ist installiert worden, als der Baum noch gelebt hat, 2015. Und in diesem Jahr ist er dann durch Borkenkäferbefall zum Absterben gebracht worden. Und wir beobachten jetzt schon das 4. Jahr in Folge, wie sich die Lebensgemeinschaften an so einem Fichtenstamm entwickeln im Absterbeprozess oder im Zerfallsprozess des Fichtenbaumes. Das ist ein schöner Ameisenbuntkäfer. Ein Jäger, der quasi sowohl die Larven der Borkenkäfer als auch die Käfer selbst frisst.
Monitoring biodiversity and change over many years enables the Harz Mountains National Park Authority to better understand and accompany natural processes.
Gefäß überführt. Das größte Arbeitsvolumen macht letztendlich die Sortierung im Labor dann aus.
Andreas Martin is one of many experts who research the return of wilderness in great detail. What is going to happen next at the nature building site? How fast does the new woodland develop, and what might it look like in the future? We can find answers by exchanging information with other protection areas. Joseph Wanninger from the Bavarian Forest National Park has been experiencing woodland rejuvenation as directed by nature since the 1990s.
Nachdem der Nationalpark Bayerischer Wald der älteste Nationalpark in Deutschland war, waren wir auch der erste, der mit Borkenkäfer-Massenvermehrung zu tun hatte, wo vor allem in den Hochlagen über 3000 Hektar alte Fichtenwälder abgestorben sind. Das war für die Menschen damals sehr überraschend und auch manchmal erschreckend und viele hatten Angst um den Wald. Und es hat sich auch die Frage gestellt, kommt überhaupt wieder ein junger Wald? Bei uns war der Unterschied zu hier im Harz, dass es kaum Vorausverjüngung gab. Unsere Wälder waren sehr dicht geschlossen und es war kaum Verjüngung drunter. Es hat sich allerdings sehr schnell gezeigt, dass die Waldverjüngung wesentlich schneller vorangeschritten ist, als wir das alles vermutet haben. Ich habe hier 4 Bilder mitgebracht aus dem Bayerischen Wald, wo das erste Foto aus dem Jahr 2001 stammt, wo die alten Wälder ca. 5 Jahre vorher abgestorben waren, wo noch ganz wenig Verjüngung drauf ist, weniger wie es hier heute der Fall ist. Und nach 2005 und 2010 das letzte Bild aus dem Jahr 2015, wo sich auf großer Fläche der Bergfichtenwald inzwischen regeneriert hat. Und wenn ich mir jetzt vergleichbare Flächen hier anschaue, was für uns 20 Jahre gedauert hat, denke ich mal, das wird in Harz in wenigen Jahren, in 5 bis maximal 10 Jahren wieder ein gleicher Wald vorhanden sein, wie wir hier das auf Bild 4 sehen. Die Touristiker haben sehr schnell erkannt, dass man diese Waldwildnis für die touristische Werbung sehr gut nutzen kann und dass die Touristen und Besucher sehr fasziniert sind von dieser Waldwildnis. Wie gesagt, mit diesen vielen Facetten eines Waldes, Totholz, junger Wald, lebender Wald, ein Alleinstellungsmerkmal und werben seitdem auch mit verschiedenen Postkarten, Kalendern eben für diesen wilden Wald.
More and more visitors who witness the woodlands change enjoy the wilderness now also in the Harz Mountains National Park. The nature building site offers new perspectives for tourism. In some areas, the National Park Authority supports the transformation of the woodlands. Little beech trees are planted in former spruce forests at lower and medium altitudes. It was only supported by people that spruce woodlands entered this area in the first place. This was after the broad-leaved woodlands of the Harz Mountains had been felled. Before this time, extensive beech woodlands characterized the Harz Mountains. Natural spruce woodlands only occurred at higher altitudes. The aim of the National Park Authority is to enable the return of the original woodland plants and animals. This means giving more beech woodlands a chance to thrive. But when spruce forests grow old and die off, nearly exclusively more spruce trees would regrow. There is a lack of old beech trees that could build the foundation for new broad-leaved woodlands with their descendants. That is why the National Park Authority gives a little helping hand. Falling beech nuts are collected in nets underneath selected old beech trees. From these beech nuts, small, deep beech trees are grown in tree nurseries. These are planted here in the Harz Mountains National Park, in between the old spruce trees. By planting small beech trees, the Harz Mountains National Park Authority promotes the return of native broadleaf woodlands and supports nature on its building site. In places where the safety and security of people are important, the National Park Authority also takes action. For example, decaying trees are felled next to public roads.
Rot, beide Ampeln rot, bitte.
Uprooted trees on the roadside of the route to the Brocken summit were not thrown over by the wind. These were pulled over to protect walkers cyclists, vehicles, and not least, the Brocken Railway. This scene may appear strange at first sight, but the capped tree trunks offer valuable habitats and food sources for insects, birds, mosses, ferns, and many other creatures. Same with this pulled-over root plate. You are entering the woodlands at your own risk, but at some places, there are measures in place to ensure the safety of visitors at the nature building site. Dead old spruce trees, pulled-over trees, and bizarre remains of tree trunks only characterize this scene for a short time. Keep your eyes open. Then you can discover for yourself how nature progresses with recycling and new creation, and how it moves on. The Harz Mountains National Park is surrounded by timber forests. Forestry has been practiced here for many generations, with the aim to harvest timber, an environmentally friendly and renewable raw material. What prepares the Harz Mountains National Park for its return to a wilderness is a threatening scenario for commercial forestry. At the boundary with neighboring timber forests, there is therefore a security corridor. In these areas, trees attacked by bark beetles are systematically recorded in a cooperation between the National Park Authority and the state forestry departments. By felling trees early and removing the timber, the living condition for the beetles are removed, and their transgression into timber forests can be prevented effectively. To protect the neighboring timber forest, the Harz Mountains National Park Authority intervenes in an appropriate way into the woodland dynamics. By the way, mass reproductions of the bark beetle are not just a phenomenon of the national park. During the last summers, they occurred in more and more woodland areas. Heat and drought have led to a rapid extension of affected areas across Germany, the whole of Europe, and also other continents. Where nature is in charge of the building site, where we let it unfold or support it, things are visibly changing towards a wilderness, and this includes typical communities of plants and animals. More and more species are returning to areas where they were once native. Ola Anders leads the Lynx project in the Harz Mountains. With the help of photo traps and other means, he is following the tracks of lynx and wild cats.
Im Grunde genommen profitieren Luchs und Wildkatze auch von diesem Wandel des Waldes, den wir hier im Moment erleben. Dadurch, dass viele alte Bäume jetzt durch den Borkenkäfer absterben, kommt viel Licht an die Erde. Das hilft anderen Tierarten wie zum Beispiel Mäusen, die jetzt einfach viel mehr Nahrung finden in diesen Beständen, die wir hier haben. Und die Schalenwild tut sich wesentlich leichter in diesen Bereichen, weil plötzlich einfach dort mehr Vegetation vorhanden ist. Und in der Folge kommen natürlich so Jäger wie der Luchs und haben plötzlich ja ganz andere Möglichkeiten, diese Bereiche zu nutzen. Finden hier auch durch diese reiche Struktur auch viel mehr Plätze, um sich zu verstecken, auch die Jugendaufzucht hier durchzuführen. Auch das ist für die Tierarten jetzt hier sehr, sehr interessant in diesen reich strukturierten Bereichen, die sich hier jetzt überall ergeben.
All of us benefit from the nature building site. On our walks, we can experience a diverse and dynamic mountain landscape, which develops more and more into a fascinating wilderness. Keep your eyes open and watch the wilderness as it grows. On the nature building site in the Harz Mountains National Park.